As a big fan of monster movies, I was really interested in what the Norwegian Netflix movie Troll might have to offer me. But is this the kind of monster movie I really like, or is it going for something a bit different? Stick around and I'll share my thoughts. I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. This is my uncut review of Troll, the new movie on Netflix. The synopsis on IMDb reads, "Deep in the Dovre Mountain, something gigantic wakes up after 1,000 years in captivity. The creature destroys everything in its path and quickly approaches Oslo." All right, so what is this animal basically? I got one impression from the trailer, but I think it turned out, well, I know it turned out to be something different than what I was expecting. The synopsis and trailer gave me the impression this would be a movie about people running from a giant, scary, destructive monster. But by the halfway point, it was clear to me that the Troll, this movie Troll, is following a formula that's more like a Godzilla movie, in which people are the real monsters, and the destructive giant is ultimately innocent and misunderstood. Nora Tiedemann is a paleontologist who was raised by a disgraced folklore professor who believed the myths of trolls are real. And so she has to reconnect with her estranged father, who taught and believed these things and was kind of outcast from society, and accept as she does that he may have been right all along. So there's some nice family drama elements at play that I did appreciate. And the main characters are often in a chase either toward or away from the giant troll, trying to survive against what feels like a massive force of nature. And in this sense, it has the sort of more adventurous feel than really like a scary thriller type feel. This adventurous feel that a number of disaster movies have. It also employs humorous beats and comic relief characters that are common in disaster movies. And so I really feel like it fits in that category far more than a monster movie, or even necessarily the same mold that a lot of giant monster movies like King Kong, Godzilla, that sort of thing fall into. It really doesn't end up feeling scary to me at all, but more adventurous and suspenseful here and there. And that's fine and fitting, I think, for what it's going for. It's just not the type of movie that I generally enjoy, and found that this one really didn't change my opinion about that mold of story. Still, it had some touching emotional beats that I did connect with, having to do again with the reconciliation between father and daughter, and a few other somber and emotional beats that lent substance and weight to what could have been, I think, just a purely trivial adventure story. So I did appreciate those elements. As far as the cast goes, although nearly the entire movie is in Norwegian with subtitles, I thought the performances came through well in the inflections, the facial expressions, the visual acting going on. I can't say, of course, how it might play to its native audience, but the performance styles all felt grounded and dramatic when those kinds of moments were called for, and then also light and comedic when needed for those moments as well. So I really have no complaints, and I definitely recommend the original audio with English subtitles over the English dub. I heard just a little bit of the English dub. For some reason, my Netflix account was defaulted to giving me that, and I was like, oh no. And again, I heard why I don't like dubs. They usually are using voice actors that overinflect, and it sounds a little bit like the acting in an animated movie, and I'm just like, this is not working for me. So I really would recommend hearing the inflections of the original Norwegian, even if you don't speak Norwegian. Let's see here. As far as stunts and visuals go, visuals, I would say, are really on par with a big American Hollywood release. And I believe this is a Netflix-produced, Netflix-funded movie. And I wonder if that's kind of like they've gotten enough money now that they've figured out that this is a way that they can make the most out of their money to really pump a lot of that maybe into post-production, visual effects, or just the cinematography and stuff like that, but you don't need to pay a bunch of big Hollywood stars a bunch of big Hollywood bucks to make it happen. But still, you can get some great acting and stuff. So I'm a little curious on a meta level about what they're doing here, how much this thing cost. But anyway, it's apart from the fact that it was Norwegian, it felt like a big Hollywood release. least visually speaking. The CG troll still looks like CG to my cursed eyes, which pick out CG, unfortunately, all too well, but it's, I think, really good CG. And there are also some cool uses of slow motion in some of the action beats that lend spectacle and scale to the story in a way that I found satisfying. But it's also not a constant special effects bonanza. You shouldn't go in with that expectation. I personally wish they would have kept the monster more obscured and kind of like a force of nature. Like he really started out in the movie instead of in the back half, really giving us frequent, clear looks at him. But I'm always an advocate for hiding the monster because I think the more you can do that, the more the imagination goes to work and the more scary they are. But again, they're not going for scary back half. They really want you to relate to the monster, so it makes sense that they're showing him a lot, you know. So ultimately I can't fault them for going in that direction, given what type of movie they were trying to make here. As far as themes, is there anything of moral, philosophical, or spiritual significance going on in the themes of this thing that might trigger some worthwhile thought or conversations? The trolls are said to have gone extinct because of the Christianization of Norway. That phrase is used multiple times, the Christianization of Norway. And this is spoken of with disgust by the folklore expert of trolls that we are clearly meant to sympathize with and see as the downtrodden outcast who was really right all along. We are meant to really, I think, be sympathetic toward his viewpoint. And he speaks with disgust about the Christianization of Norway. The troll is also awakened and angered when his sleeping place is drilled to make a tunnel, to make a modern kind of nicety for civilization in Norway, amidst protesters who want the mountain left alone, particularly, or presumably, people that would be equivalent to those that want to preserve nature and natural landmarks and natural places and things like that. So it was that kind of protesting group. And there was also expressions of the idea that nature should be left alone or it's going to fight back. And there's similar things going on with Godzilla, that Godzilla's origins are, I guess, related to the nuclear bomb and experimentations and the radioactivity of that. I think there's some kind of connection there. But anyway, a lot of these big monster movies will have that kind of theme where like modern military or technological progress that does not treat nature with respect results in some representative of nature coming out and then doing harm, although it's no fault of their own. They're not malevolent. They're just trying to defend themselves and stuff like that. So it's got some of that vibe going on. The Norwegian military is also depicted as not really evil, but overreactionary, destructive. I mean, there's one person in there that's just this mindless, like, blow them up, destroy everything, and being, completely ignorant and stuff like that, toward this innocent troll, who is definitely portrayed as the victim. Now, I'm not going to attempt to read the mind of the writer. I don't think we should do that. But I think it's interesting that these elements synchronize well with a perspective that sees Christianity or modernity as a destroyer of culture and or a destroyer of nature. So a liberal and or secular perspective, but one that still wants to believe in the supernatural, still wants to believe that some things that most people consider not to be real might be real, that the wondrous could really exist, and a viewpoint that still holds to some virtues that are believed in strongly. There is, I think, also a noteworthy portrayal of faith, not religious faith, but faith in the existence, in this case, of trolls or other ideas that one might want to believe are true. Nora's father tells her that rather than seeing, before believing, one must believe before they will be able to see. And a little later, Nora discovers a new dig site that her paleontologist colleagues thought did not exist. They were ready to give up, but she finds it, and in her celebration of the find, as they're kind of, drinking champagne and celebrating after the fact, she tells the others that if you truly believe in something, and then she's cut off by, an event, an advancement of the story. But the implication is clear. Believe first, and then the thing you want to believe in, that you strongly believe in, will be seen or brought about or actualized in some way. Now, depending on the sense, this notion is either true or false. It is false in the sense that the existence of a being, such as trolls or God, or the existence of physical objects, such as dinosaur bones, is brought about by our belief. That's false. Belief does not make anything true. However, it is true that there are some realities we cannot experience until after we believe, such as certain blessings, experiences, and life changes that can come about as a result of believing in Jesus and trusting in God's word. I think in the case of finding finding the dinosaur bones, it wasn't her belief that they existed that brought it about. I mean, well, in the context of the story, the writer can make whatever they want happen. But in the real world, when people would say like, oh, I believed strongly enough and then this came about, well, it was really that their persistence in believing that led them to stick it out long enough to eventually bring about the thing that they wanted to bring about. It's not that literally their belief altered reality and brought something into existence. I mean, there are some people that believe that is the case. That's kind of I don't know if you describe that as a New Age philosophy or whatever, but I mean, I think it's demonstrably false, and so that's not something that we want to adopt as Christians. But let's see here. What else was I going to say here? Yeah. There are some realities we cannot experience. The experience of realities sometimes cannot be had until we believe or trust in some prerequisite fashion. But this isn't to say that the Bible teaches belief in God without reason, without having good reason to. In fact, contrary to other religions and philosophies, Scripture invites logical reasoning, testing, scrutiny, and examination. Paul says, listen, if Christ was not raised, then our faith is in vain and we should be pitied more than anybody else. And so he's saying, dig into this, examine the claims of the resurrection, and see for yourself, And even us, thousands of years later, there is evidence that we can actually research and discover actually exists that's very strong and compelling for the resurrection of Jesus. And the claims of Christianity, hold up under this kind of scrutiny, unlike the alternatives. But living out the Christian life, experiencing the Christian life in matters, say, of obedience, there are times where God does want us to simply trust and obey without first having a full explanation, a full understanding of all the reasons and arguments for why. I mean, I've learned just that as a parent, too, that sometimes my boys want to know all the reasons why we want them to live a certain way, make certain choices, have a certain perspective, and they're just not old enough to cognitively understand all the things that we understand. And so sometimes we do try to explain as much as we can to them so they can be armed with that knowledge, but there are times in the moment where there's just not time to explain, and like, kiddo, right now I just need you to obey. I just need you to trust and do this. And we can talk about it more later, or you'll understand more as you learn about some other things in life, but there are some times where we're just called to trust and obey. So anyway, all these various ideas I think are pretty embedded, certainly some of them not intentionally. They are a bit below the surface, but I don't think it takes much to start thinking or talking about them after watching Troll. Now, I have no idea what your tastes are in movies, but if I were a time traveler, I'd go back in time and say, Peter, skip this one. It's got some interesting thematic stuff, probably not being made from a perspective, from a worldview that you would agree with, but I mean, it's still interesting on a meta level to kind of, figure out what's going on there. But as far as the experience, the intended experience itself, you just prefer scary monsters over the innocent Godzillas being attacked by the evil modern military, And yet the concept of trolls as colossal destructive creatures is one that appeals to you. So for that, go and watch again the movie Troll Hunter instead, which I think can be found pretty frequently and recurringly on various free streaming services. Troll Hunter. And that really is applying some of the same Scandinavian folklore and mythology and putting it in a modern context in some similar ways, but treating the trolls as scary monsters, and resulting in something that's much more appealing to you as a horror fan. This one's rated TV-14 for fear, language, and violence. And those are all my thoughts for now on Troll. I would, as always, love to get your thoughts and reactions in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe, and click that bell to stay connected. I want to thank the Spirit Blade Insiders for making this review possible. You can get info about the benefits of joining over at patreon.com/spiritbladeproductions. Multiple tiers for you to choose from and different benefits that you can get from that. And then I hope you'll check out our podcast and stay connected to all CGC content over at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth.